Nick here at PSC Consulting. I'm a senior manager and I'm here with my fellow senior manager, Tom. And today we're going to discuss how merchants can improve their bottom line by reducing online declines. So first of all, I'd like to set the scene. E-commerce in Europe has grown almost to 900 billion by the end of 2022. That's a very strong growth of 10.6 per annum over the last 5 years. And we're particularly interested in the amount of these sales which are made by card, debit or credit card, which is a little bit over half at 463 billion. Now, just to drill down into that a bit more, we can see that 388 is domestic, where the buyer and the seller are in the same country, and 75 billion euros per annum are cross-border. But on top of the successful card transactions, there's always a proportion that are declined. And as you can see here, the rates are a little bit higher for cross-border, which we'll come on to in a little bit. But overall, our data suggests that the total rate of declined transactions, i.e. when you try to pay by card and it's refused, is 60 billion euros per annum. And in order to understand how much of this lost 60 billion can be recovered, we need to look at decline codes. So Tom, could you please explain what decline codes are?
Sure. When the card issuer checks a transaction to see whether you have sufficient funds and whether the transaction might be fraudulent, they send back in a return message a special code that says this is whether the transaction is accepted, and if not, this is the reason why I've had to decline it. And those response codes, reason codes, split into two categories. One category is things that no one can do anything about. If you don't have enough money in your account, you don't have enough money in your account. But there are other reasons, technical problems, or simply the user has keyed in incorrect card data into the website that could be avoided. So rather than look at the top level figure of this is the total number of declines, we need to split it into how many of those are avoidable and how many are not.
Great, thank you for that. So let's look at the data again. So insufficient funds, where there's just not enough money in the account and you can't do anything about the decline, is almost half of all refused transactions. And then when you look at the other reason codes, which you can't do anything about, as Thomas just mentioned, that's another 28%. That leaves 25% where you can do something about it and try and win back some of that lost revenue. And that 25% is 15 billion a year. So how exactly can we try and win some of that money back? Well, Tom, you've got practical experience in trying to help our clients improve their acceptance rates. Can you explain to me how you go about this, please?
Indeed, we've done this for a number of different clients, and we take the approach of getting a large data sample from the client, so a million or several million transactions over a period of time. We put those into a big database, and then we start looking at the avoidable declines, the unavoidable declines, and we try and correlate those with different factors associated with the transaction. And those factors are things like who is the card issuer, was the transaction domestic or cross-border, what was the currency of the transaction, what was the value of the transaction, was it authenticated with strong customer authentication, and so on. Normally we see similar proportions across different merchants, but as soon as we see some proportion that's out of kilter, that's where we start drilling down to find the underlying.
Thanks, that's really interesting. Perhaps you can give me a real life example of a client you've helped out and what were the results?
Yeah, by all means. We had some engagement with a large UK subscription merchant. They had changed acquirers and their acceptance rate had gone down dramatically, and they asked us to take a look at why that might be. So we applied the techniques that I mentioned earlier, and we found that there was a problem with the way that the messages were being constructed by the new acquirer. they were being sent to issuers as if they were not recurring transactions, as if it was the first time that the customer was transacting. And that meant that the issuer was not getting all of the information that they expected, and they were simply declining the transactions. When we pointed this out and got the merchant and the acquirer to work together to fix it, lo and behold, the acceptance rate went up by 6%, which represented a £1 million per month uplift in value of transactions for that merchant.
Wow, £1 million extra revenue per month. That's incredible. So if you're watching this and you are a merchant and you'd like to improve your online sales, just drop us a line here at PSC Consulting and we'll see what we can do for you. Thank you.